Hi all, this is Dr. Mamta Java, microbiologist and faculty at Dr. Tutorials. I welcome you all to the very first video module on microbiology. Now, microbiology guys is making a transition from being a paraclinical subject to being a clinical subject. And infectious diseases is really important, not just from the point of view of exams, but also as medicos, you should be able to, name the important microorganisms which can infect humans and cause different diseases, because unless and until you know about different microorganisms and their ABC, their virulence factors, how they look under the microscope, what kind of colonies they produce on different culture media. In other words, unless and until you are able to identify what kind of microorganism is infecting a particular individual, you cannot do the next step for that individual or that patient, that is the treatment. Okay, so it's very important to have a basic knowledge of the subject, and it is a very important subject for second year MBBS students. And of course, different kinds of exams, it carries a lot of weightage, and as I said, now the transition is becoming towards clinical microbiology, and you can expect a lot of clinical vignettes on infectious diseases along with one-liner questions as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my subject into different modules. We are going to first cover the basics, the ABC of microbiology, and then I'm going to introduce to all of you the different villains or enemies which we cannot see with naked eyes, but they are actually our enemies, because if they infect us, we can be in serious trouble in the form of different diseases. Okay, so let's start. First, let me dissect this word for you, microbiology. What do we mean by this? Microbiology refers to the study of organisms of microscopic size, that is, organisms which can't be seen with naked eye. Okay, which cannot be seen with naked eye, and these organisms are known as microorganisms, also referred to as microbes. So these two words are synonyms, microorganisms or microbes. Now guys, there are different specialities of microbiology, like we have got industrial microbiology, agricultural microbiology, but because we are medicos, we are going to restrict ourselves to medical or clinical microbiology. So we have got medical or clinical microbiology, wherein we are supposed to know about those microorganisms which infect humans. Okay, so it refers to the study of microbes of medical importance. Now guys, just like God is everywhere, okay, and there are different kinds of gods, or rather I should say God has been given different names, but there's only one God. Okay, I'm just taking this analogy to explain to you that infectious agents or microorganisms are everywhere. Okay, everywhere. In fact, the number of microorganisms which are present on Mother Earth are much more in number than the human population, and we have got different kinds of organisms. So ask yourself this question: is it really possible for us to prevent infection? Is it possible to avoid infection totally? What do you think? The answer is no. You cannot prevent yourself from getting infected, right? So infections are bound to happen always, but then do all of us keep getting sick by these infections? These infectious agents are present in the air. Okay, we on a daily basis are inhaling microorganisms, we are touching microorganisms, we are even eating microorganisms, but by God's grace we do not keep falling sick, because there are two reasons. Number one, when God has created enemies for us, the microscopic enemies in the form of pathogenic microorganisms, pathogenic meaning the disease causing microorganisms. God at the same time has blessed us with a very good immune system. Now, I personally look at the immune system as, Indian Army. Indian Army because the second largest army in the world, okay? So, being an Indian, I have taken the analogy of Indian Army for our immune system, okay? So, one reason for not getting sick is, if suppose we get infected with an infectious agent, our immune system is competent enough to produce certain weapons in the form of antibodies or immunologically competent cells which will come to our rescue and eliminate that organism so that we don't develop any symptoms. Okay, so good immunity does not mean that infection is not happening. As I said, you cannot avoid infections, but good immunity means that the immune system has come up with our friends in the form of antibodies or immunologically competent cells which will eliminate the organism so that we either do not develop any symptoms or we develop only mild symptoms. That is one reason that we do not keep falling sick. And the other reason is, even though, as I said, we are the number of microorganisms on Mother Earth is much greater or humongous as compared to the number of human beings, most of these organisms are harmless only. Okay, they are simple harmless saprophytes present in the atmosphere. Okay, so even though we might be inhaling them or touching them or eating them on a regular basis, we do not fall sick. Are the number of actual enemies for us. These enemies I call them as pathogenic microorganisms. Remember, pathos means disease, genic means to produce. So the medically important microorganisms are the pathogenic microorganisms which could be dangerous for humans because they can cause serious diseases. And in clinical or medical microbiology, our job is to know our enemies well. That is, to know about the characteristic features of these pathogenic microorganisms well. Okay, as they say, know your enemy very well. You should know the strength as well as the weakness of your enemy if you want to combat your enemy. Okay, so we are going to learn about the different kind of enemies. In other words, the pathogenic microorganisms, specialty wise, like virology, bacteriology, mycology, parasitology. That will be one part, and in the other part we are also going to learn about the strength which God has bestowed upon us in the form of a very good and competent immune system. As you all know, if the immune system is not functioning properly in somebody, and these people we call them as immunocompromised individuals. In immunocompromised individuals, a lot of infections are very common. Okay, so immunology is a very important part of this subject, microbiology, which is really interesting, and that I'm going to take up in a separate video module. Okay,